Put down that camera and strap in. It's time for a new episode of TogChat Live. Get ready for 60 minutes of wall-to-wall photography, including photo news, tips, and your photography questions in real time, with answers from your host, Olympus Visionary Joe Edelman.
Hey, that's me. How's everybody doing tonight? It's a Wednesday night, and yes, it's time for another live episode of TogChat. I'm your host, Joe Edelman, and as always, my mission is to help photographers like you to develop a more solid understanding of the hows and whys behind great photography. So before we get going, gang, every week I ask you, please take a minute. Let your photography friends know. We are streaming live on YouTube right now. Twitter, Facebook, they're the fastest way to get the word out. You can go ahead and click that share button underneath the video, and that will bring up a pop-up window that will let you share it, or you can go ahead and share this link that I just put into the chat window right now. A lot of people tuning in. We've got, let's see, Debbie's here from Charlotte, North Carolina. Mitch from Northern Ireland. I got Simon from the UK. Ajax is here from Texas. Lynn from New York. I've got Vancouver Island with Ken. Lots of people. James is here from right up the road in Milford, Pennsylvania. Please check in. Say hi. Let me know where you're from. I'm not going to lie. It's always cool to see where people are tuning in and watching and chatting here on TogChat. So tonight, gang, it's you and me. We are going to have a nice, laid back, hopefully no rant night about photography and whatever you want to talk about. I do have a little bit of business stuff that I want to bring everybody up to speed on really quick because I appreciate your support and the fact that you folks are so kind to me. So I'm going to switch over to my website. Whoops, and I hit the wrong page right out of the box there. I'm going to switch to the lectures and workshops page, which is basically my schedule. So for those of you that don't know, and apparently a lot of people don't know, but next week, Tuesday, day one of Shutterfest 2019, I will be in St. Louis. I will be at Shutterfest, and I am doing a talk. It's called a Lunch and Learn at 12:30 in the Regency Ballroom C in Union Station at Shutterfest. Now, some of you will be disappointed if you're coming. It is not a photography talk. So I'm not going to teach about lighting. I'm not going to do that cool live composite stuff that you see me do in the videos. Actually, it's something a little bit different. It is a talk about personal branding. But listen closely, and this is stuff that you'll hear me talk about more also on YouTube this year. There are a lot of people that are making a lot of money from suckers like you guys because they're hyping this phrase, personal branding. Like, ooh, it's the new secret sauce if you want to be successful as a photographer. What a bunch of bull crap. So my talk in 1 hour, while people are eating their lunch, is going to be to debunk what this personal branding is all about and actually prove to you that you already understand what personal branding is and that you've known about it for probably most of your life. And indeed, a lot of you are not very good at it because you are lazy about it. But if you at least understand what personal branding is really all about, hopefully I can save you a ton of money, so you're not going to go out and pay these coaches that are going to give you all of this, crazy information about how you can become successful. Because believe me, guys, there's no substitute for hard work and some basic common sense. Every now and then, we just need a reminder about that common sense. So that's what will be happening next Tuesday. And so I'll be getting into town on Monday. I'll be there all day Tuesday. So if you folks are going to be there, I saw a couple people, Kevin checked in. I think that I see Deborah said she's going to be there. A few people have said that they're going to be there in St. Louis. Track me down on Tuesday because unfortunately I'm headed out of town like crazy early, 5 a.m. Wednesday morning. So I won't be there for day 2. Deborah, looking forward to meeting you too as well, okay? So Tuesday's the day. If you already have something planned and you didn't see my lunch and learning schedule, because apparently there was a mix-up and they didn't add my name to it right away, so a lot of people didn't realize it was me, whatever. If you can't change your schedule, hey, I totally understand. But I'll be walking around. I will make myself very available and visible that day. So I hope to meet as many of you as I possibly can, okay? And then some other stuff that's coming up. May 4th, if you're in the Northeast and you're anywhere near Syracuse and you want a chance to spend a day with me and learn my portrait lighting techniques, learn all about the beauty stuff that I do, I'm going to be at the Professional Photographers of Syracuse, New York, in Syracuse, doing a full day workshop. Then some other cool stuff that's coming up right where I started. So this is, if I may share a little Joe's story, on June 6th, it's a Friday. I'm going to be in a small town in Pennsylvania called Lansdale, Pennsylvania, at a small camera shop called Cardinal Camera. I'm going to be doing a presentation for Olympus, showing off some portrait stuff and the live composite and all that. But the reason why I am actually so excited about this talk, this camera store, now it has moved since 1971, but this camera store is the camera store where I purchased with my own $75 from my own savings account, where I purchased my very first camera. So a whole lot of years later, I get to go back and I get to do a presentation, which is just really cool. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then the very next day on June 8th, I'm going to be up in northern New Jersey at Unique Photo Store, a huge photo retailer, awesome educational program up there. And in July, I'm going to be out. I saw a couple people here from Michigan. Hopefully you guys can make it. I'm going to be in Holland, Michigan in July for the Southwest Michigan weekend of photography and digital imaging. I'll be talking there and presenting as well. Richie Rich, I see that you said it froze. You might want to refresh your browser from everything that I see going. We should have a good feed out here. I'm sorry. So Deborah, you spent $5,000 for coaching. Wow, am I sorry to hear that. Like, I really am, because there's very little, and I'm going to be honest. You know, I'm always brutally honest with you folks. There's very little that you would be able to tell me that would convince me that you got $5,000 worth of information from that kind of a program. I'm not buying it. So do make sure you come to my talk, because I'm going to simplify it much more so than what they would have done in any coaching program. And guys, you know me, right? I don't pull any punches. There are other instructors at Shutterfest talking about personal branding. They're probably not going to like me either. But, you know, again, it's kind of the zombie-tographer thing. You know, we start hearing these buzzwords and everybody chases it and thinks, oh my God, like that's the thing I have to be doing. No, you don't. You should be doing personal branding in your day-to-day life as a human being, as a functioning adult. It's something that we actually all do, and we're taught to do as little kids. It's just now it's got this really fancy name, and then people think because it has a fancy name, they can charge you lots and lots and lots of money to do something that you should be doing already, that you've been taught to do pretty much your whole life. So we'll deal with that, okay? But anyway, make sure that you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and put this link in the chat window because I know you're tired of hearing me like pitch all the places I'm gonna be, but there is where you can keep up with my calendar and where I'm gonna be speaking. One of the great things about being an Olympus Visionary is Olympus is an amazing company that is sending me all over the country and allowing me to present for them. So it gives me the opportunity to come out and meet so many of you face to face, which is always great. It's always neat to put faces behind the names that we see here. Hey, Cozy Speed is here, the folks from Cozy Speed. So guys, if you haven't checked out their bags, you gotta check out their bags. In fact, hold on a second. Let me show you something here, gang. These folks make some of the coolest little camera bags that you have ever seen. And I gotta tell you, they sent me a couple of these to try out. So I've been using them for a little while now, and you're gonna see a video about them very soon. So Cozy Speed, don't worry, you'll be happy. There's a really nice video coming. But they have got like all-weather bags like this one, which number one, nice and bright, but they're not huge bags, right? So let's get this really clear. This is not the kind of bag where you're going to carry like your entire camera system. So if you're like me, I kind of have a bag problem. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I totally have a bag problem, but let me explain the bag problem. So you ready? Here comes my defense. My defense is that when you shoot for as long as I've shot, and when you shot as many different things as I have shot, you want to have the right bag or case to be able to handle your equipment. And what works for one assignment doesn't work for another assignment. So, admittedly, now that I'm shooting the Olympus and I've got the smaller cameras than that, I love to be able to carry one or even two camera bodies and then a small bag where I've got my spare batteries, 2 or 3 lenses. Yeah, 2 or 3, okay? And then, even a speed light and maybe 2 lenses, that type of thing. So, and the way these bags are designed, you can wear them, like this particular one has a shoulder strap, also works as a belt pack. If you don't like the bright colors, which I get it, some people don't. If you consider yourself the really stylish and debonair, okay, you've got leather, similar idea. These come with like loads actually, and to be honest with you, probably more dividers than any photographer needs in a bag this size, but they come with loads of dividers that you can, divide them up, set them up, also belt pack or shoulder strap. And then there's one more that they sent me here too, which this one, I'll admit, this has kind of been my favorite so far, just because, I tend to go with the basic black, but I won't lie, they're all pretty cool. So I have a video coming up. You'll be able to learn more about these. And actually, it's a good opportunity for me to mention to you guys something that I'm going to do. And so full disclosure, you guys know that I've always been upfront with you about this stuff. I saw that Matt Granger, another YouTube photographer, posted a video this past week or so. I don't follow him that closely, but he posted a video about the idea that he went for a whole month and he accepted every piece of free equipment that every company offered to send him. So true story, when you are what they like to call an influencer, which I think is kind of a ridiculous phrase, but I get it. When you do this YouTube stuff and you have a social media presence and you travel and you teach, there are tons of companies that basically throw stuff at you and say, here, would you use it? As long as you'll do a video about it, right? Very smart for the company. So don't get me wrong. But the challenge of it is, for me, I don't know about Matt Granger. He probably gets a lot more. I didn't see the video. On an average week, I truly get about 30 emails. Now, most of these 30 emails are from Chinese companies. About a third of those 30 emails are from Chinese companies that sell on Amazon, and they're asking me if I want to do a video review about some kind of shoe polisher. Like, it's completely stupid, irrelevant stuff. And then there are Chinese companies that are putting out, photography gear, etc. And it's not all Chinese companies on Amazon's. The folks at Cozy Speed didn't reach out to me and say, hey, we do a video about their stuff. In fact, Cozy Speed and I have been chatting back and forth on Instagram for probably the best part of a year now. And I love their bags. I wasn't sure if I really had a use for them. They were smart enough to realize when I switched to Olympus, yeah, he's going to want a smaller bag to play around with. And they were absolutely right. I'm really enjoying being able to go out with 1 or 2 cameras and then have some additional lenses and not take a whole backpack. But anyway, where I'm headed with this is what I'm going to start doing. I'm not going to do like Matt Granger did and just take everything that people send to me. It's ridiculous, right? And that's not what I do on my channel. But along the way, I have come across some really cool gadgets and accessories like these Cozy Speed bags that are worth mentioning. And I've kind of gone back and forth for a while, like, well, should I do this? Should I not do this? Will the angry photographer be calling me a shill if I do this? So finally what I decided is, hey, I'm going to start, and I've actually recorded 2 of them. I'm going to get 2 more in the can so that I can roll these out consistently. But I'm going to start doing a really quick series, like 3 to 5 minute video series, once a week, recording it right here. So it's not going to be scripted like a tutorial. It's not going to be a live stream, but I'll be doing it right here. And it's basically showing off pieces of gear that I find are worthwhile, meaning it's stuff that even if you don't have a need for it right now, today, it's worth your knowing about. And it's a full range of stuff. I want to be clear. It's not all like camera bags. It's not all actually camera gear. You're going to hear me talk a lot about storage systems for computers and things like that coming up, all because of some changes I've made in my system, some companies that I've been able to reach out to and build relationships with. So it's basically going to be kind of like a gear tip, and it really, I'm not going to do affiliate links with it. So I'm not going to sell anything. I'm not. A lot of these companies when they say, hey, we want to send you this product, they're also like, look, you know, we'll give you an affiliate link, and when you pitch it, you may have this kind of money. I'm not doing any of that because I don't want to be beholden to any of these companies. You know, I will stick with my Amazon links, which I've done for years now. And, you know, if you want to support my channel by shopping through one of my Amazon links, awesome. And if you don't, I understand. It's okay. But something that, you know, I've come across enough kind of really cool little gadgets and I hate to say toys, but hey, come on, it's gear, right? So, but things that are actually really worth knowing about. And again, you may not have a need for it right away, but down the road, it could be a game changer. So just to kind of create an awareness. And a lot of times what happens with these small little companies, they don't have the marketing budgets to get that brand awareness. So if I had the ability to put this information out there so that people realize there is an accessory like this or a tool like this, then I think it's worthwhile doing. So coming up real soon, okay? So anyway, that being said, it's you and me tonight. I'm loving the interviews. So I'll let you guys weigh in here in the chat window. You know how it is, it's YouTube, right? And you get lots of feedback and some people like this and some people like that. So me personally, I'm having a ton of fun doing the interviews. And so don't worry, they're not going away. We are gonna keep doing interviews, right? But I've had some people reach out and say, but we really like the Q&As. We really like to be able to just ask you questions and get information and lots of information. They really like it when I talked like a couple weeks ago about, you know, model prep and that kind of stuff. So I want to try and mix it up just a tad. And I think it'll work out really good. So, you know, basically I don't want to say it's going to be every other week, but it'll be maybe like a week or two of interviews and then a week of Q&A and then a week or two of interviews and a week of Q&A. I want to, you know, kind of go back and forth. So tonight, it's just us, okay? Andrew Oki, actually, let me just get caught up on the screen here. Do more of the Olympus tip videos. You really like the ones that I posted this week. Oh, awesome, thank you. So first of all, let me explain what that is because I didn't actually post them. But I know a lot of you have messaged me and said, dude, what's up? You're not doing as many tutorials. Like, we really like TogChat, but we really miss the tutorials. Every now and then, you got to take on some projects, and those projects kind of get in the way of things. So let me switch the screen over here, and I'll show you. For those of you that are Olympus users especially, okay, you might want to go check this out. Whoops, let's get that screen set up so it's actually showing you what you want to see here. Bear with me 1 second, and we'll get the right stuff here. There we go. So I'm going to take Andrew's face off the screen here. If you visit the Get Olympus YouTube channel, especially if you are either an EM1X user or considering getting an EM1X, Olympus asked me, and I've been working on them for actually a couple months now, and there's some more to come. They asked me to do a series of videos that are little featurettes. So at the very top of the Olympus YouTube channel, you'll see there's 5 of them up there right now that just got loaded this week. So they're the EM1X tutorials. They feature yours truly explaining how a lot of the new features of the EM1X work. So we started with features that did not exist before. Cozy Speed, you're more than welcome. Thank you for staying up so late. It's great to see you. We started with features that did not exist previously in Olympus cameras. Things like the live ND, the intelligent subject detection, autofocus, etc. So if this is stuff that you're interested in, whether it be because you just got an EM1X or whether it be because you are thinking about it, you'll find them very helpful. They're all very short. They're like 2 to 3 minutes long. It basically walks you through the menu settings for how you use that function. In some cases, it shows you some examples. And there will be more of those coming. They're very similar to things that Gavin Hoey has done for Olympus in the past in Olympus UK. He did some stuff for Olympus UK and the EM1 Mark II. So this is kind of a similar setup to that. So, Andrew, I do appreciate the kind words on that. There will be more for sure. And don't get me wrong, folks, the tutorials have not gone away. I know and I love all of you for wanting more of them. I know that that's what you like the most about what I do. Please don't think that I have turned a blind eye about that. I have a really bad habit. That really bad habit is when I'm having fun, And by the way, this is not a good business approach, right? So I'm, picking on myself here, but I'm going to be honest. I have a bad habit when I'm having fun of saying yes to everything and trying to do everything. That's not humanly possible, right? So obviously, I let the tutorial slow down a little bit because my relationship with Olympus, especially being an Olympus Visionary, is fairly new. I was excited about the opportunity to be the person that was really going to kind of represent the EM1X and present it to the world. There's another video which I'm trying to get Olympus to agree to post. It's a 15-minute long video, again, featuring yours truly. And it's the video that was shown around the United States and Canada, all around the US and Canada, at the EM1X launch events to basically introduce the EM1X and to show it off. And it's actually got a lot of really, really good information in it. And it's got me in it too. But so anyway, I'm also trying to get them to, if they won't post it, give me permission to be able to share it, because I think for people that are new to the EM1X or even just curious about it, there's actually some really, really great information in it. So anyway, so that's a little bit of what's going on, but believe me, tutorials have not gone away. The teaching aspect of what I do, it's my passion. It will continue to be, so don't worry. So I love these questions. So this person's username is I love. When your contract with Olympus expires, will you go back to full frame? No, not at all. Olympus didn't buy me. Two, if we want to be completely technical, I'll share with you a piece of information that I probably really shouldn't be, but I'll share it. Technically, right now, today, I'm not under contract. The fiscal year for Olympus, like many corporations, it runs from April 1st to April 1st. We haven't received our new contracts yet as visionaries. I'm sure we will soon. I'm not really that concerned. But no, guys, I did not make this move to Olympus for a sponsorship. I simply didn't. If I had done that, I'd probably have a lot more money in my bank account, right? Because it would have been a very money-motivated move. It just would have been. It was because that's what I wanted. It was time for me to make that switch, and I'm really, really thrilled that I did. So I love you. Didn't mean that they bought you. Hey, don't worry. I wasn't taking it personally. I love you. I'm sure can imagine many people suggested that, I was bought in the process, but I wasn't. No, so sincerely, no BS. And then let's get Olympus, to the back burner for now, because again, I know that a lot of you are not Olympus shooters, and I respect all photographers, right? So as much as I joke about different brands, it's a joke, and you know that. But I will tell you this. Here is my prediction. So God willing, I will still be here talking to you guys in 5 years and 10 years, right? I may have to sit down instead of stand up, but I'll be here. And when that happens, I am confident 5 and 10 years down the road, you will see Sony, Fuji, Nikon, Canon, heck, even Pentax. You're going to see those companies starting to go smaller. Smaller sensors, smaller cameras, smaller lenses. Now, why do I say that? Do I have any factual knowledge of that? No, I don't. But I'll give you what my argument is. Look at what human beings historically do with technology. Go back to the Industrial Revolution, right? Things start out big, and then what do? We work to make them smaller, faster, lighter, cheaper. That's what we do. Cameras did the same thing, and then all of a sudden, companies like Sony leading the way, because Nikon and Canon were always big. But even now, Nikon and Canon have jumped on that ship, and they're making things bigger and bigger and bigger, and heavier, and more expensive. And while they are making things technically better, don't get me wrong, I would agree, they're adding in some impressive technology. It's counterintuitive to the way that society normally works. And they're doing it to excess, meaning they're doing it to an extent where we really cannot actually appreciate that additional quality that we're getting, right? We can't. So it will change course. I'm not predicting, so please don't start on Tony Northrup, right? I'm not predicting that, we're going to see the whole world go micro four thirds. No. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But I am predicting you will see things turn around, okay, and get smaller. You absolutely will. Ellis Collins, didn't I predict a year or so ago that Sony wouldn't be at the Whoops, Ellis, you got to give me the rest of your statement. Sorry, I can't respond because there's only part of it there. So, okay, let's get back here. I know I got a bunch of questions. Ace Photo and Video, yeah, I know you just got your EM1X. Awesome. So, let's head back up here. All right. Per Luigi, ooh, here's an interesting question. And you know what? This is also a good time of year for this because I think there was just a story on Petapixel or one of the blogs about some guy that was shooting political candidates. But his question here is he needs some suggestions. He's taking pictures of some candidates in municipal elections. Do you have any suggestions for the subject's poses and lighting scheme? Thank you so much. So, per Luigi, do me a favor, type fast, okay? And answer this question for me. Are you going to be essentially shooting like portraits for these candidates that are going to be used in brochures? Or are you going to be shooting action shots that show them interacting with their potential constituents? You know, the usual, like, you know, the candidate shaking hands, the candidate talking to business people, the candidate sitting down playing with little kids, in a school. What's the context that you are going to be shooting them in? And tell me that, per Luigi, and then I will come back and I'll give you some tips there because there's, oh, okay, he just got it for me, portraits. So let me put this back up here then. I want to get his question back up. So he's going to be doing basically portraits of these. So the first thing, per Luigi, that I would suggest, number one, is if you are being hired either by a company that is managing this campaign's election, which is frequently the case, or if you're being hired by that campaign manager, or maybe even if that campaign has a marketing person, you might want to go back and you might want to look at the video that I did about 1.5 years ago. It's actually from a live presentation that I did called A Simple Approach to Portraits That Flatter, because I break a lot of it down there. But to give you some of the answers now, what I would suggest that you do first is start with the question, why? Everything that we do as photographers for clients, everything, even personal branding, starts with the question, why? So the question you're asking is, why do they want the pictures? Now, the obvious answer is, well, we need them because they're running for election. And it's the and that is actually the answer you're looking for. And we want to put them on roadside posters. We want to put them in brochures. They're going to be used on the screen in television commercials. We're going to be using them on the candidate's website. So if that's the case, if it's kind of the all-inclusive candidate package, then you want to be asking them, before you even get to poses and lighting, you want to be asking them, okay, well then, if that's the case, you're potentially going to be using them in a lot of different ways. Would it be best for you if I photograph the candidate on a white background? Or would it be best for you if I photograph the candidate even on a gray background so that you can essentially mask them out and use them on different things? Or do you have a preference if we photograph them on, you know, blue, whatever? That's step one. Once you know that, don't get overly creative, right? Understand that if you're photographing candidates for election, it is not about your photography and it's not about getting creative. The most important thing that you do with them is you have to make them look personable, right? We don't want a candidate that looks mean or angry. We want them to look likable. So it is really important that the biggest skills that you're going to put to use for that session is that you are going to have to find a way to connect with that candidate. And of course, it never fails. Believe me, I speak from experience. The candidate, they want great pictures, but they're extremely busy. They don't have a lot of time to give to you. They need you to work quickly. So you've got to work quickly and build a relationship very quickly to get them to relax and to be able to make them look personable. And then from there, you know, I would go through a bunch of different variations. So simple lighting, no, you know, dramatic stuff. Keep it even, keep it simple, nice and easy, right? From the standpoint of poses, do basic head and shoulder portraits. And what you want to do is you want to make sure you photograph them, not straight ahead square, right? But a little bit of an angle here, a little bit of an angle there. That gives the designers for their campaign the ability to work in both directions for design and layout. You might want to do, you know, back them up, do the, you know, the whole, you know, hands on the arms thing. If you do this, most people do this, especially guys, or they'll do this. Don't have, sorry, the stump, okay? You want the hands. Don't do it elegant like a female. Just and don't let them get out here where it's like, I'm covering myself, right? Shoulders need to stay relaxed, boom. And you can even do that on a bit of an angle, right? If the person was, and please, let's refrain from the comments, all right? But if the person was kind of like a tough guy, or even like a Donald Trump type candidate, you might want to kind of do a lower camera angle and do, you know, the hands on the hips, powerful, strong, because that's kind of the impression that that person likes to give. But those are the questions that you need to ask either a campaign manager, marketing person, or if you're dealing directly with the candidate, kind of how they like to present themselves. What is their platform? How are they themselves connecting with you know, the voters? And that's really what you're going to be trying to communicate in those pictures. So that's what I would recommend. That's where I would recommend you know, that you start. Okay. All right. So let's see here. I've got a question. Ash, I know I'm going to just get this all pronounced wrong, but Ash Kagamine, gosh, I hope I'm not horribly off there. Beginner photographer, congratulations, welcome. You have a reflector, a lens, and of course the camera itself. Will you need anything else? Okay, that's a good question, actually. It really, really is. You know what the first thing that you need is you need to go shoot about 10,000 pictures of anything. Take pictures of your feet. Take pictures of the ceiling. Take pictures of your fingers, the wall, bugs, insects, bottle of water, anything. Go take pictures. As you start taking more and more and more pictures, you're going to start to realize that you are leaning in one direction or another. In other words, you have more fun shooting people as opposed to landscapes, or you prefer landscapes as opposed to people, whatever. Once you start to have a really good sense of what kind of photography you like to do, because you've been taking so many pictures, that's going to dictate to you what your next pieces of gear should be. That's going to be telling you, Perluigi, thank you so much for the super chat, I appreciate it. That's going to tell you what you need to pick up in terms of gear, because you're going to find yourself like, well, I want to do this kind of a picture, but I don't have the right lens, or I need a tripod, or I need a flash, or an umbrella, some kind of modifier, right? I would, oh, Perluigi, I'd love to see it. Absolutely, please do share it. Perluigi, I'm pretty sure you're in my Facebook group, right? So make sure you share it in there, okay? But Ash Kagamine, the big mistake that beginners make is they spend way too much money for no good reason, right? We all love the toys. I love the toys. Everybody loves the toys. Gear is cool, right? It just is. But it's so easy to just throw money away because you think you need something or somebody said you need something. So that's why you notice I'm trying desperately not to even tell you what kind of gear you're going to need for anything. Take a lot of pictures. If you're a beginner photographer, keep it fun. Have fun. Even if you are passionate about it and you're dying to learn and to move ahead, keep it fun. Take tons of pictures. As you start to migrate towards one type of photography or another, which everybody ultimately does, then it's going to become really apparent to you, I need this kind of a lens to do this, or I need a light, or I need a tripod, you know, those types of things. So that's the kind of stuff that you're going to want to, you know, to look at. But trust me, do that down the road. Don't start there. Okay. All right, where are we at here? Let's see. Elijah, sadly you missed watching the show. Life has gotten busy. Hey, that's okay. If you're busy, and I hope you're busy taking some pictures, so that's totally cool. Understand that my primary focus is on photography, but does Olympus have great cameras for video? So my answer is yes, but obviously everybody's going to discount that because I'm an Olympus visionary, right? So let me give you, you know, the straight up lowdown. Certainly, Panasonic put more emphasis earlier on into their video aspects. As a result of that, you have a lot more third-party accessories made for Panasonic cameras. Cages, riggings, all kinds of stuff, okay? That being said, remember I used Panasonic video cameras. That's what led me to Olympus. So I used them for my video. I was very happy with them. You are now watching me through an Olympus OMD EM1 Mark II. I shoot all my YouTube videos with the OMD EM1 Mark II, and occasionally I'm using the EM1X now as well. Olympus, hands down, far superior to anybody else when it comes to video. The built-in image stabilization for movies is incredible. With a little bit of effort, you can walk one of these cameras around and it's like a gimbal shot. It's just amazing, okay? In my opinion, the image quality is every bit as good as a Panasonic. Panasonic users will argue they like Panasonic, etc. But you know, Elijah, I would encourage you, if this is like a move that you're considering making, rent one, borrow one, go to your local camera store, see if they have one, try it out, shoot some video clips with it. That's the best way to make sure. But I have been absolutely thrilled with the video work that I'm doing with the Olympus. Even with the live streaming that, it's great, super easy to set up. So I've been very happy with it, okay? All right. Nick, don't worry. I'm going to go back up to the top. I know that there's some questions up there. Ellis, you may have missed this. Why the switch to Micro Four Thirds? Here, let's switch over here. I'm going to get you a video link really quick. In fact, here, I'm just going to grab the link and I'll bring it up here for you. Bear with me 1 second. Basically, Ellis, I'll give you the short version, but then I'm going to give you a copy of the link. The short version for why the switch to Micro Four Thirds is that I really realized that I was doing most of my photography with this. I was only picking up my Nikon cameras when I was getting paid, and that's kind of really stupid, actually. Honestly, the fun had just left the whole process for me. It was work. The cameras were big, they were expensive, and they were getting bigger and more expensive, and it's not like it was improving my photography at all. So, you know, I was using the Panasonics for video, and I started experimenting a little bit to see what they were like with stills, and I was pretty impressed. But people kept saying that, you know, hey, if you're looking at Micro Four Thirds for stills, you got to check out Olympus, especially with their lenses, et cetera, et cetera. And I did. So that link that I just put in there, check that out, Ellis, and that's actually the whole story as to why I switched to Olympus. And honestly, I'm thrilled. I just wish I had done it a lot sooner. I mean, honestly, that's about it. Okay, so let's see here. Looks like I've got a good lighting question. I love, my biggest confusion is to where to take a meter reading in studio photography film using multiple lights. Okay, so here, where do you put your meter if you're using multiple lights and you're doing studio lighting? It's real simple. Okay, so let me grab really quick here, guys. I'll grab a meter. Okay, so this is the little Seaconic, the L308S, okay? If you follow Gavin Ho, it's also the same one that he uses, okay? It's kind of the entry-level Seaconic flash meter. Super easy to use, works amazing, right? So imagine, if you will, right, that I'm the subject, you're the photographer of the camera, I am the subject, and imagine that there's a light over here and a light over here, right? So if it's two lights and you're gonna have me look at the camera, put the meter right there. That way, it's measuring the light coming from both. If I'm doing a shot with just one light, so imagine there's just one light over here. You're the camera, here's the light, the key light. I will go ahead and I will meter here directly at the light. But if I'm using two lights, I'm just going to meter straight ahead. I can't tell you how many times I see beginner/new photographers walk into a studio, take the meter, throw it in front of the subject, and it's aimed like, you know, wherever, and they're not paying attention to where that globe is. It is very, very important. So it's not that it's got to be like, ooh, exact. And remember, even this is still a reference point. This is not the law, right? If this says 5.6, it doesn't mean like, oh my God, you better shoot at 5.6. This is your starting point. This is to help you make sure that you are getting good exposures and not wasting a ton of time to try and find the proper exposure. That's what this is doing. So you're using this as your starting point. It's kind of like a guideline, so to speak, right? That's the idea, okay? All right, so let me clear that one out. And I want to scroll back up here really quick because there were some questions up at the beginning. So here's one. Nick has been to some of my workshops, so I will go ahead and answer this for him. As much as I really prefer to forget about it, but I'll answer it. So he finally stumbled on some of my old videos and noticed that it's a completely different Joe in those videos. So his words, how did I get from the pudgy suburban dad look to the cool YouTube celeb? Was it a midlife crisis, the Olympus tattoo instead of a sports car, much younger girlfriend? No, definitely not a much younger girlfriend. The Olympus tattoo came much later than the transformation. And the midlife crisis sports car, that actually happened when I was about 39 years old. So that's long gone. I drive a Prius now, okay? No, literally what it was, true story, 7 or 8 years ago now? It's been that long. When my son was married, he was married on a tiny little island 7 miles off the coast of Cancun, Mexico. It's called Isla Mujeres. So they had a beach wedding on sunset, at sunset, on the beach at night, the whole bit. That evening, we're on the beach, 7 miles off the coast of Mexico. It was late October. There was no breeze. It was probably like 89 degrees at the time that they were married. I was, for those of you who don't know, I was about 70 pounds heavier than I am now. And by the time I got about halfway through the ceremony, I was pretty much panicked. I was struggling to breathe. I was convinced that I was going to ruin my son's wedding. I was scared to death that I was going to wind up in some Mexico on this tiny little island, or in a hospital on some tiny little island off the coast of Mexico. So I was a mess. I was just a complete mess. So I got through the wedding night, barely. And the next day, we had the makeup artist hired again, and we shot all around the island. We put the bride back in the dress and all that kind of stuff, but came home from Mexico and said, that's it, I got to do something. So I went to a doctor, wound up getting all kinds of physicals and stress tests done, and turned out, fortunately, I was pretty much healthy as an ox. I was just really overweight. So that was it. I said, enough's enough, and lost the weight and have kept it off since. I'm up about 12 pounds right now from where I prefer to be. It's been a crazy busy winter and a little stressful, as a result of that. So I'm kind of working to get myself back on track now. But I'm not worried about it. I know that I can manage it. And, I've had a few ups and downs since I lost the weight. But, and as far as the look and all that stuff, that actually kind of truly is the real me. I was always one that tended to be just a little different with my clothing and everything. I mean, I didn't get my first tattoo until I was like 56. I waited a while. But yeah, so it was nice to be able to go back and wear kind of, for me, what I would say real clothes. The clothes that you see me wearing in those first videos, yes, I kind of look like the really boring, middle-aged dad, and I sound like the really boring middle-aged dad. So yeah, it was just really a matter of being able to find myself. But it wasn't for YouTube. YouTube was still kind of happening all around it. Certainly things went a lot better once I, got that under control. So anyway, thanks for noticing, Nick. Okay, but I appreciate the kind words, all right? So AppDev had a question here, and this is a tough one because unfortunately, I don't have an ideal answer, but let's tackle this one. So maybe try and give all of you a little bit of a better understanding of this lighting stuff, because the answer, unfortunately, is something that I talk about a lot. So the question here is, I have a question about lighting. Say that I only have shoot-through umbrellas and I want to reduce the spill of light. Is there a practical way to achieve this? Now, I wrote back, this question came in earlier. I wrote back and I asked AppDev, tell me more about the spill. What kind of problem is it causing? And the response was, it's hitting the background. So the challenge is, he's working in a small space. He's staying less than a meter from the subject to the background. So that's about 3 feet, okay? And he's trying to control that spill. So AppDev, you're gonna have a really hard time controlling it completely because you're just in a really tight space with an umbrella, right? So we could say go spend money, buy a different modifier, but even then it's gonna be a challenge. But the more that you learn about the inverse square law, the easier it is going to be for you to control it, and the better you'll be able to control it. So here's the trick, and this is only going to really work for portraits. If you try a modeling shot in this situation, there's all kinds of things that are going to go wrong. But if you're shooting portraits, you want to get that umbrella, the front of that umbrella, as close to your subject as possible. The inverse square law will help assure that if you're exposed, if your umbrella's here and the person's face is here, okay, this like literally this distance, and you're exposing for that, the light is going to fall off very dramatically, very quickly. So working at a 1 meter or 3 feet distance from the background, you'll probably be able to keep the light off the background, but it's not a guaranteed or an assured thing. Even if you were to switch over to a beauty dish, or if you were to switch over to a softbox, and even if you put grids on it, 1 meter, 3 feet, that's a tough working distance. So what I would actually suggest that you do, if you can, so it's kind of a little bit of a down and dirty trick, but it works. So imagine that this is your portrait subject, right? Camera's right here. Umbrella, what you want to do, oh, and the background is like literally right behind it, right? So follow along, guys, because I only have 2 hands, right? So we've got subject, background, like 3 feet away, super, super close. Camera's over here, and we have the umbrella. So what you want to do is you want to bring the umbrella up a little higher than you normally would. The reason being, now the shadow is going to fall behind the subject and down. So as long as you are shooting the subject at eye level, you can essentially hide the shadow. You're basically hiding the shadow behind them, okay? So that's honestly, for me, that would be the solution that I would go to if I was working in a super, super, tight position like that. I would essentially try to hide the shadow, and that's probably going to be your easiest and most effective solution. Okay. All right. I love asked, do I use Pro Photos? I don't know. I use Godox and occasionally the Interfit Honey Badgers, but no, I'm not a Godox person, just primarily because of the cost. Excuse me, I'm not a Pro Photo person, primarily because of the cost. Pro Photo makes incredible gear. It's just ridiculously expensive for what most photographers need, right? If you're making 6 figures a year with your photography, then hell yes, you should be using Pro Photos. If you're doing it as a hobby, or you're not making 6 figures a year, then I really honestly have to question your sanity for using a Pro Photo, because it's not bringing anything to the table at that price point that you can't do with a much lesser expensive strobe. So that's a problem. But let's be really clear, Pro Photo, outstanding equipment, top of the line, really, really well built, pure color, it's great. So David, can I comment on the silver versus the white lining umbrella? Yeah, my personal taste, I don't like silver umbrellas. I prefer white. Silver is a little bit more reflective, so you don't lose as much light, but the silver tends to create a very cold, almost bluish light. I'm just not a fan of that harshness. But understand, that's not like the end-all answer, right? If you look at my photography and the way that I tend to light very soft. I'll do a lot of crazy stuff with colors, but I tend to keep my lighting very soft. You don't see a lot of harsh shadows in my photography. And a harsh shadow, by the way, doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad shadow. It just means it's a harsh shadow, okay? Harsh shadows can be bad, but a harsh shadow isn't necessarily bad, right? So it's really kind of a matter of preference, and I would encourage you to experiment with both. Same goes with soft boxes. If you graduate to soft boxes, you can get white lined, and you can get silver lined. My personal taste, I prefer the white all the way. I'm not a huge fan of the silver. I've used them, I can use them. I just definitely prefer to go with white. Let's see here. Sean LaPalme, do you know a Fresnel LED kit in the $300 US area? You've been in a Hollywood noir mood lately. I don't, but I'm pretty sure they're out there. Now, I can't say that they are out there in the $300 range. I honestly have no idea what an LED Fresnel is going for. But I know that there's LED, Fresnel lights out there. But honestly, in terms of a brand of that, unfortunately, I'd be at a loss to make a recommendation to you, John. I really I really don't know, okay? Let's see here. Wooly G, where do I get my shirts? So here's the bad news. The shirts that you normally see me wear, which this is not one of the normal shirts, the shirts that everybody really likes, that company's out of business. It's a company that was called Roar, R-O-A-R, all capital letters. They don't make them anymore. So now, like with this shirt, I'm actually just experimenting a lot, trying to find some shirts that I really, really like. But yeah, it was a company called Roar. That's where most of them came from. So, okay. All right, going back up here. Let's see. Lego, is the light meter in the viewfinder of your camera, does it serve a different purpose compared to the physical handheld light meter? Oh, absolutely. Yes. So the light meter that's in your camera is what's called a reflective light meter. So it's measuring light that is reflected from your subject. It's coming through the camera lens and reaching the camera's meter. A light meter like this, if you have the globe on it, which I do right now, so there's the sensor right there, right? But if you have the globe on it, this is now what's referred to as an incident light meter, meaning instead of having it at the camera lens, I'm going to have it at me, the subject. So it is going to measure the light coming from, all directions, okay? As opposed to the light that's hitting me and then reflecting back through the lens to the camera sensor. These types of meters are considered to be more accurate, but don't get too hung up on that. Like, sincerely, with all this light meter talk, is it a good idea to have a light meter? Absolutely. If you're just starting out and you're just putting your kit together and you only have 1 or 2 lenses and you're still trying to save up for good optics and you want to get some lighting, then forget that they exist. Don't buy a light meter yet. If we were still in the film era, then of course I would be saying, oh God, yes, go get one of these. It's the most important thing you could possibly own. Buy it before you buy any lenses. But we're not in the film era. We're in the digital era where we have LCD previews if you are a DSLR shooter, and we have EVF if you're a mirrorless shooter. So you know that your exposure is right, boom, right out of the box. The meter will help you, but it is absolutely not a necessity. So more than anything, what the meter does for you in today's world is it helps you create some discipline. It slows you down, forces you to think. And believe me, that's a very useful tool. Okay, it's a very useful tool. So Marlon Haggard, you enjoyed the talks at WPPI. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. If you were there, I hope that you said hi and I got to meet you. I ran into a lot of people at WPPI, but I had a lot of fun. It's always a fun show. And honestly, I'm really blessed that Olympus sends me out there because I have a lot of fun doing that presentation, especially when we get to the Star Wars part. It's just, it's a lot of fun. So let's see here. Simon, love the straight talking advice. Thanks so much for sharing your thought process. Videos played a big part. Oh, awesome. You switched to Olympus. Very good. Congratulations. Welcome to the dark side, Simon. If you have any questions along the way, don't hesitate to ask. Okay. So let's see here. I want to back up. I know there were a couple others that I missed back in the beginning. Let's see here. Jazzwinder, I hope I got that right. I apologize if I didn't. What's the best way or tool for learning post-editing of raw files? So there's a couple things that I'm going to tell you, right? If you're just getting started and you are trying to either learn Lightroom or Photoshop, or even if you're working with a program like Luminar, I would recommend that you do a couple of things. First and most important, just play. Open up the program, load an image into it, and start moving sliders around and see what happens. Try to get a visual sense of what happens if you move the contrast slider, what happens if you move the highlight slider, what happens if you move the clarity, the dehaze, the vibrance, the saturation, all those things, what happens? And then do some searches on YouTube. There are some excellent instructors on YouTube that are teaching post-processing. My #1 favorite happens to be from India, Unmashtinda. He has the channel Pix Imperfect. I'll type that word in here for those of you that don't know of him. He was a guest right here on TogChat a couple months back. There we go. Pix Imperfect is his channel name. So if you search that on YouTube, you'll find his channel. Of course, the very well-known and incredible educator, Mr. Scott Kelby. who runs Kelby One, another outstanding Photoshop educator. From there, number 3 on my list would be a gentleman from Chicago, Illinois. At least I believe he's from Chicago, Aaron Mace. He runs the very popular site Phlearn. It's Phlearn. And also up on that list, gentleman from out west in the United States. His name is Colin Smith. He does the YouTube channel called Photoshop Cafe. But Jaswinder, here is my important piece of advice to you. So now that I've told you about all these people on YouTube, I would encourage you, go and watch a video from each of them and ask yourself one simple question. Which one of them did I enjoy listening to the most, and which one of them did I enjoy, or do I think that I learned the most from? Once you've made that revelation, stop watching the others. The challenge with processing digital images, Jaswinder, is that I don't care which program you use. It could be Photoshop, it could be Lightroom, it could be, Luminar, it could be any of them. There are 30 or 40 ways to do every single thing. There is no right way, and there is no one way to do it. So if you watch videos from too many different mentors, you are going to find that you are going to get yourself extremely confused. You're going to be spinning in a circle. It's like, well, this guy says do it this way. That guy says do it that way. Now I don't know what to do. And the problem is neither one of them is wrong. They're absolutely not wrong. So find one. It's basically you're choosing who is my mentor. And that's the person that you follow. And you will be able to learn much quicker. But at the end of the day, just like taking pictures, you got to turn on Photoshop and you got to use it. You got to, or Lightroom or Luminar, whichever you do, and you got to use it. You have to experiment. You have to play. That's very important. Okay. All right. So scrolling back up here, because I know there's still a bunch up in the beginning that I missed. So let's see here. Ellis had a question about the Sony thing. I don't want to make him think I'm dodging that. So hang on a second. Ellis, your Bluetooth keyboard died. You got to hit when that happens, don't you, right? He said, didn't I predict that Sony would be out of the camera business? No, Ellis, absolutely not. You will not find those words anywhere. I've raised a question of concern, and I've raised it multiple times, as to, is Sony a company that we can legitimately trust to stay in the camera business? I mean, historically, that's a fair statement, right? Historically, Sony's gotten in and out of a lot of businesses and just dropped them like a hot potato when they decided they were done. Now, do I think that Sony's going to do that? No, and I've never said that. I absolutely, hands down, you will not be able to find a YouTube video where Joe Edelman said that. I don't think Sony's going to drop out of the camera business. They own the world right now. Why would they? That'd be pretty stupid of them to do that. But still, you have to, if you're a smart consumer, you've at least got to be honest with yourself about what are the possibilities. Here's a company that in the past, historically, has not played well with others. You kind of had to buy their memory sticks. You had to buy Betamax, that type of stuff. They like to lock things up. And they kind of, say, yeah, I'm done, and they move on. But seriously, I don't want to cause any scares, and I'm not doing a Tony Northrup. Sorry. No, I don't think Sony's going to go out of business whatsoever. I've never, ever said that. But certainly I've raised the question of, are you confident enough that they're absolutely committed? And my honest answer is I think they're committed. Sure, no reason not to, okay? Let's see here. Ken Wilberg, just had your hands on the EM1X a couple weeks ago at an event. Was that an event with my video, I hope? Not for you yet, but hey, yeah, and believe me, guys, the EM1X isn't for everybody. Neither is the EM1 Mark II, for that matter, right? There are thousands of people that love the EM5, the EM10. It's all about what do you need, what are you doing? So, oh, Andrew, you just got your EM1X in the UK. Awesome. So I will be looking forward to that. I hope those videos help out, and there will be more to come. So we're doing others. So Mike Radcliffe. So, gosh, it's a Tony Chelsea question. So I'm sorry. Tony and Chelsea just did a video on the future of portrait and wedding photography. How over the last years all have gone down. What's your take? So, Mike, I didn't see this video. So, Mike, if you're still here, give me a little bit more background. When you say how they've all gone down, you mean like people are making less money, or do you mean people are hiring fewer photographers? I'll gladly give you my opinion, because I have a feeling I dramatically disagree with them. But I'd like a little bit more information so that I'm not just spouting off on something that's not relevant to their video. So tell me a little bit more about this video and exactly what they said. Because I'm not willing to do the YouTube drama stuff. I've made my opinions on Tony and Chelsea very clear in the past. I stand by those opinions. I have incredible amounts of respect for them, right? So, but yeah, tell me exactly what they said, and I'll totally give you my feedback. No problem, okay? So let's see here. Where are we at here? Scrolling up here, just want to make sure. So I got all of those. Let's see. And where are we at? Chaz, bags open up the wrong way. Why have them open up where you have to hold it open if only all bags open up away from the body so that it's all protected from the weather and you hold... well, okay, so like a messenger bag, Chaz, tends to open. I see what you're saying. I'm sorry, I actually kind of prefer that, but maybe it's just because I'm used to that process, right? But, you know, sling bags in particular don't actually open up at all. You slide it around, zip it, and boom, you're right in the bag, right? Or even Velcro it. So, so there's a lot of ways around it. I mean, there just are. But I understand what you're saying. I would have to say it's kind of a little bit more personal choice there. The flap coming up at me really doesn't bother me that much at all. I don't see that to be an issue. James Doohan, the angry photographer, is a rude person. I wouldn't worry about. Oh, trust me, I don't worry about Ken. And I want to be really clear. I like Ken. I know that's not a very popular thing to say. For those of you that don't know who I'm talking about, I'm talking about Ken Wheeler, who's the very tattooed gentleman known as the angry photographer. Ken has had a tough go of it. And Ken doesn't necessarily always present himself in the most politically correct way and in the best of ways. But I will tell you sincerely, it is my belief that he is an extremely genuine human being. Genuine in the sense that he tries very hard to do well for the photography community. I certainly do not agree with his approach. He's a little rough around the edges at times, okay? But fact of the matter is, when Ken starts talking about technical stuff, 99% of the time you can take it to the bank. He's not trying to cause, you know, drama. He's not throwing BS out there when he's talking technical stuff. He knows his stuff. He's very, very, very intelligent and very well versed in that sense. So, but yeah, I mean, he's just, he's an interesting guy, right? You know, he just is. So, Brian Essler, hope to see you when you're here for us, Southwest Michigan. Yeah, man, I do hope we get together. I've already put my buddy Jamie McDonald on notice because apparently Holland, Michigan is near the famous barn. So for those of you that don't know Jamie McDonald, my fellow Olympus Visionary, he's got this barn that he has photographed many times, which is actually kind of a really cool thing because he keeps going back to this barn, and it's that challenge of creating new images, seeing it in a different way, in different light. And believe me, he's photographed it every season in every kind of weather. It's really neat. So I'm actually excited to go see the barn if it is indeed close to Holland. So Brian, yeah, hopefully you'll be able to make it up there. That would definitely be a good time. So, so let's see. I'm scrolling back up here really quick, guys. I know there was one other question that that I missed, and I want to get it because it came in early. So let's see. Nick had a question. Full-length shots in a very small space. Can barely fit a single 7-foot umbrella. 7-foot umbrella? Nick, really? 7 feet? Come on, man. Anything less than 14? No, I'm kidding. What do you need a 7-foot umbrella for? I would never use a 7-foot umbrella, even if I had like huge space. Obviously, in this space, I wouldn't. But nah, just smaller lights. 7 feet is like it's huge. Not to mention, you know, like the light stands alone to hold a 7-foot umbrella. You need massive light stands. Got to at least use a C-stand. Like, yeah, for me, I have one C-stand. One. My computer is mounted on it. My computer is mounted on it. Other than that, no, I don't need C-stands for most of the work that you know that I do. So okay, all right. So I think actually Nick had 2 others here early on. So let me get these, and then there's a bunch of new ones that came in. So don't worry, gang. I'm going to do my best to get all of them here, right? For non-pro models, which, by the way, is the overwhelming majority of the models in existence. Remember, go to the dictionary, look up the word model. A model is a person who poses for an artist. Sometimes it says photographer, okay? So just because a person's a model or says they're models doesn't mean they're a pro. That being said, for non-pro models, what's a good way to approach how much skin retouching they want for Photoshop edits for them without somehow implying they're full of blemishes and wrinkles? Nick, you're the artist. I've never, ever asked a model, pro or not pro, how much retouching do you want me to do? I mean, no disrespect to any model, but I don't give a damn what she wants. I just don't. If I'm shooting her portfolio, she came to me to be the expert to make sure that the pictures I give her are going to get her hired. That's what I did. If I'm shooting her as a trade so that I can use the images on YouTube or social media, I don't care what she likes. I mean, I'm not trying to be like cocky or arrogant, and it's just I'm creating the image, right? So if I want to do a lot of retouching, I mean, you guys know, like you've seen a lot of my images, I'll use like half of the model's face and I'll flip it over and create a whole new version of her. So yeah, that's the kind of thing for me. I'm not going to ask at all. If it was a portrait subject, somebody came to me for a business portrait for LinkedIn, that may be a different conversation for sure, okay? So this is actually a really good question right here. Also from Nick, with regards to makeup, many of us are just not at the point to be able to hire a makeup artist for glamour type shoots with non-pro models. Then my advice would be don't do a glamour shoot with a non-pro model. I mean, I'm not going to lie, Nick. Nick, you've been to my workshops. You know that I'm not going to accede to that. But the important part of his question here is, how do you convey how much makeup you think you need? Do you double it? What do you do? You just dive in and you try it, Nick. Honestly, that's how I learned. But we now have something that we didn't have when I started working with makeup artists, and that's called Instagram, and it's called Pinterest. So what you can do is, if you're going to work with a makeup artist for the first time, you can go through Instagram, you can go through Pinterest, you can find images that have the kind of makeup that you're looking for, the kind of vibe to them. Show that to the makeup artist and say, hey, I'd really like the girl to look like this. Can you do this? That's the easiest way to convey it. I mean, honestly, it's super easy. I do that sometimes, even though I know how to converse with a makeup artist in their language, right? I will still frequently just pull out a picture and show them and say, okay, here's what I'm after, right? Okay, so let me scroll back down to the newer comments, okay? Let's see, Perluigi, he's stressing about this candidate assignment. I can hear it through the YouTube, okay? For the portraits of the candidates, he's thought of using his 24 to 105. Would it be good or would it be better if he used the 50 millimeter f1.4? Again, if you're shooting just a traditional portrait, Perluigi, use a longer lens. 50 is too short, okay? It just is. If you have a situation where you're in really tight space and you need the shorter lens, then that's fine. However, if you use that 25 to 104, pay attention. I can't tell you how many times at workshops I watch photographers come in with like their 24 to 70 or a 25 or 24 to 105. And I noticed partway through the workshop, the model's face is here and they're shooting portraits like here, like literally. And I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, well, you told us to fill the frame. And I'm like, but what focal length are you at? And they're like, 30 millimeter. Like, whoa, look at the girl's nose, right? So you want to make sure that if you're going to use that 24 to 105, that you do not let it drop down below 75 or 80. That's really going to be kind of your ideal scenario. But as long as you can be disciplined with that, yeah, I would definitely encourage you to go with a slightly longer lens. I think that would definitely be the better way to go, okay? Let's see here. Sorry, Polish Nandi. I hope I've got that right. Just setting up a home studio, and for lights, you're buying Godox speed lights. You find them more cost effective than the 8200 or the 600. Is that okay, or should you go for the big monolights for better quality? So let's be really clear. The bigger light doesn't mean better quality, right? It just means bigger, more power, more money, okay, faster recycle time, etc. So let's kind of dumb this way down for a minute. And I don't mean because your question's dumb. I mean just to make it simpler to understand, okay? So big difference between speedlight and the AD200. Let's start there. So the AD200 is what's referred to as a pocket flash. Godox kind of created their own category for the AD200, right? It's called a pocket flash. And then you have studio strobes or monolights, right? So the big difference between a speedlight and the AD200 pocket flash. The AD200 is about 3 times more powerful than the speedlight. It also recycles much faster, and the lithium battery in the AD200 is generally going to put out up to 500 full power flashes, which mean on one charge, which means that if you're not using it at full power, you can easily get 1,000, 1,500 flashes on one battery charge if you're not running on full power the whole time. The 8200 is approximately 200 watt seconds. When you go from the 8200 pocket flash up to the monolights, then you're going up in the Godox line, you're going up to either a 400 or a 600 watt second strobe, which more expensive, but more powerful, maybe slightly faster recycle time, etc. Okay, so based on budget, based on space, based on your shooting needs, would it be bad to go with speedlights? No, not at all. Okay, the big difference you're going to notice just from shooting, like if you're shooting even in a small space like I have, the big difference you'll notice between the speedlights and the pocket flashes is they don't recycle as fast. So you have to be a little bit more patient as you're shooting. The pocket flashes will let you, shoot a little bit faster. But even that, if you keep shooting too fast, they overheat and then they slow down. The monolights, the 8400 and 8600, they're not going to do that. They won't slow down. So, each level kind of has some trade-offs, right? They just do. But it's certainly, it's not bad to work with a speedlight. Definitely not. So, okay. Let's see here. James Doohan. Oh, okay. More Kim Wheeler stuff. I'm sorry. I guess when I say he's rude, I'm talking about the personal attacks on certain YouTube channels that he just, yeah. And again, it's tough, James. I don't disagree with you. So please understand. Ken Wheeler, he's kind of an anomaly, right? I mean, he just is. He's an unusual character. I have had the good fortune to actually have direct conversations with him, like on a phone. I haven't met him face to face, but I've been able to talk to the gentleman. He is a character. He's definitely eccentric, but I assure you, he means well. Yes, he does go after certain YouTubers, but you know what? If we're being honest, okay, the reasons that he goes after these YouTubers, I'm not saying that he does it in an ideal way, or for that matter, even in a respectful way. I agree. But the reasons he goes after these YouTubers, he's usually not wrong. He's usually got a good point, okay? But, some of the battles that he's picked, there's a very good argument to say, but is it his business to go after it? No, it's not his business, right? So the good part of it is, like my channel or anybody else's channel, right? People don't have to watch. You have that option. But I will say he is, at his core, he's a great guy, and he means really well, and he works very hard to do the right things. But yeah, he's a little bit eccentric, and we all are to some degree, right? So. Let's see, Dean, as an Olympus Visionary, any chance you can come over to the UK and do the photography show in NEC? Your style and openness will work well here. I'll tell you what, Dean, I would love to do the photography show. So the challenge is with that, just to give you a little bit of background, it's not that it won't happen. It's hard for it to happen. And it's simply actually between the UK and the US, it's because of tax laws that makes it challenging and visas, right? To be able to essentially get like work permits, okay? So Gavin Hoey has done the Photo Plus show here in New York 2 years ago. He was over, and the way they got him here, they weren't cheating, but they were able to do it through, I believe, Adorama, and indeed they had to do the whole get the the proper work visas and all that. So it's a lot of work. So it's one of those things. Maybe if we're lucky, at some point, Olympus UK and Olympus US will maybe do a trade. Bring him over here for a while and send me over there to, do a couple of events. I would love to do that. I actually have family in London, so believe me, I would love an excuse to come over and present. So definitely don't write it off. But I have a feeling really what will wind up happening if I can get a company that says, hey, we want you to talk, Joe. I would probably do it at no cost to be able to do it. I'm not going to lie. I would love to come over. I've got a lot of followers in the UK. I would love to be able to do there. But it's challenging for them to do it from the standpoint of being able to pay us legally. That's literally what the big obstacle is. Hopefully it'll happen, because I believe me, I would definitely love to. So, all right, let's see here. Scrolling down here. Let's see. Parina, how often do you use the pixel shift as you mostly shoot people with a camera? When do you prefer to use it? I know it's applicable for architecture product. So this is an Olympus question, folks. For those of you that are not Olympus users, what's being referred to here is pixel shift. It's the high-res shot modes. So I have been dabbling with them in the EM1X for the handheld high-res shot modes. You can actually do portraits with them. For me personally, I don't have a lot of need for it, Parina, and part of the reason is that the 20.4 megapixel sensors, excuse me, are more than adequate for my work. So, you know, having a 50 megapixel or an 80 megapixel file just kind of throws me back to, like, you know, being in my Nikon days again. It's like, why do I need this big a file? I don't need it. So that doesn't make it bad. A lot of people really like to have it. But, you know, you listed the things that it is, you know, particularly most commonly used for. And you know, for me, if I were to go shoot some of those things, then certainly I would potentially, you know, go ahead and use that feature. But all in all, I don't need to, you know, I don't need to use that technique that much. So, all right. Let's see here. Scrolling back up, I think there were a couple others that I missed. Let's see. Darko, where do I feel medium format cameras shine best? Do you think they could make a great street photography with a wide angle lens? Gosh, like, really? Um, so I laugh. Let me be fair. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing because that concept to me was kind of my first gut reaction. Honestly, was like, why? Why would you want to do that? Generally speaking, right? So remember, there are no rules. I'm the guy that pushes that idea, right? But generally speaking, street photographers like small, they like lightweight, they like inconspicuous. While medium format digital cameras are much smaller than medium format film cameras, they ain't that small. They're pretty big, right? And the lenses are pretty big. Especially, you know, remember, Darko, I'm a micro four thirds guy. So, you know, I can take a Pen F with a 17 millimeter lens and practically fit it in my pocket, in my pants, right? So it's kind of hard to argue, you know, the size aspect of it. But to go back to your question the way you asked it, right? So let's take an open-minded approach to that question. Depending on what your shtick is, and when I say shtick, I mean your way of working, your methodology. I've seen people do street photography with 8 by 10 inch wooden film cameras, right? On big tripods. So it's all a matter of how you like to shoot, what you like to shoot, the way you like to do it. You know, for me, I just kind of take the approach of, like, you know, why shoot medium format? I mean, for the photography that I do, and for literally the photography that I've done for probably the past 40 years, and especially the last 20 years in the digital realm, medium format's just complete overkill. There's absolutely no benefit to it whatsoever. So unless you've got a specific need that requires a massive file, the extra resolution and pixels and everything and cost that's going into that medium format camera, you're kind of wasting it because it's not being seen. So, okay. Let's see here. Alexandro, you're using the Olympus EM1 Mark I for a couple of years. You're thinking of going full frame, but you're a bit reluctant. Well, that's good. I don't know why you go full frame. But your question is, I still drool over that full frame. Look, the bokeh, what should you do? Pro lenses are quite expensive. So, I mean, Alexandro, I'm going to be honest with you, right? What you just said there, you just contradicted yourself, which makes no sense. So let's take the I like the full frame bokeh look and set that aside for a moment. I'll come back to that, right? Pro lenses are quite expensive. Have you priced full frame lenses that are 1.8s, 1.4s, or 1.2s? You ain't seen expensive until you've looked at the cost of those lenses. The Olympus Pro lenses are a fraction of the cost of Nikon, Canon, and Sony, you know, f1.2 lenses. It's like ridiculous. There's no comparison. So part of the problem with your question, so let's go back to the bokeh part now, okay? Full frame bokeh is an oxymoron. Full frame bokeh is a statement that is made by people that do not understand the physics behind photography. Sorry, gang, I don't mean to be tough, but wake up. This is zombie talk. This is a zombie question. I love full frame bokeh because everybody loves full frame bokeh and it's so cool. Gang, you can make bokeh with any freaking size sensor. And you can make bokeh with darn near any lens. If you actually, truly understand the physics behind depth of field. If you think depth of field is a tool to get bokeh, and if you think depth of field is how you get bokeh, you ain't understanding depth of field, period. Depth of field is the most powerful creative tool that physics provides photographers. If photographers would simply learn depth of field and the inverse square law, those two things, truly learn them, you could save yourself thousands of dollars on gear. Thousands of dollars on gear. But instead, people are lazy, they don't take time to learn, and they go out and they waste a lot of money so that they can be a zombie and take pictures that look exactly like what some guy on YouTube is doing or like what some dude on Instagram is doing, instead of creating their own look. Why would you do that? There's no value to that. There's simply no value to that. So, I mean, if I were you, honestly, I would maybe consider upgrading your EM1 Mark 1, maybe consider the Mark 2, or maybe consider an EM1X. But, all in all, if you're happy with the Mark 1 and your only concern is bokeh, you don't even really need to upgrade the camera body. Just upgrade to a pro lens or that. But understand, the pro lens is not what gives you the bokeh. It's learning how to use depth of field properly that will give you the bokeh. Just because you buy an Olympus Pro lens doesn't mean the one of the 1.2s, the holy trinity of lenses, okay? As Olympus likes to refer to them, the 17, the 25, and the 45. Just because you have a 1.2 and you set it at f1.2, that doesn't mean that you automatically have bokeh. That's not how it works. So, okay? Let's see here. Captain Ahab. You went to the store with the mindset of a Sony A3 to upgrade a part of your kit, and you came out with Panasonic G9. Wow, that was like a left turn in there. Holy cow, okay. But still, I mean, so number one, better value? Yeah, man, absolutely. The G9 with those lenses, Captain Ahab added here. Let me put this on top. You made the decision when I talked about creating depth of field and simple problem solving. Well, I appreciate that. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, don't get me wrong, guys. And I apologize, I forget the username that I just gave a really tough time to about the bokeh. I like bokeh too, right? But I don't have to have bokeh in all my shots. In fact, I would encourage you, and son of a gun, I cannot find this person's username. If you are still here, the person that I was just talking to about the bokeh, please, 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 make sure that you go back a couple of weeks. I cannot find the post. So if you're still here, go back a couple of weeks. I had a guest on my show named Will Cadena. In fact, let me find the video, the link here. I want to give you the link. I'm going to beg of you, before you go spend more money on gear to get bokeh, okay, go ahead and watch this interview. So this was a TogChat. This was about a month ago. Will is an awesome photographer. Will, by the way, is a Canon shooter, okay? He does portraits, he does weddings, he does some fashion stuff, a little bit of everything. Oh, Eric, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it very, very much, sincerely. Check out my interview with Will. I show a lot of his images in there, and you're going to notice that he's doing this really cool stuff, really creative stuff, and he shoots almost everything at like f11 and f16. No bokeh, none. He's shooting models out on the street in daylight, and everything in the picture, foreground, subject, background, in focus, tack sharp. And his images kick butt. So, here's an example of a guy, and by the way, he's making a ton of money. He's a very busy shooter, travels all over the country shooting weddings, etc., okay? No zombie in Will. Will's doing his own thing. He's doing it old school, really. He's kicking it seriously old school, but he gives it a very modern flavor and making a lot of money. So I would encourage you, just, check some of that stuff out before you get too hung up on spending money with a bokeh, okay? So, all right, let's see here. Darko, oh, this is a tough one, man. Thanks. You guess for you that you want to get noticed as a street photographer with a larger camera. You laughed with it. It's comical to see me doing media format. Photographers like me in the street. So I'm curious, oh, Darko, thank you so much for the super chat. Sincerely, thank you. When you say get noticed, give me more information, especially since you just gave me super chat. Please don't end the conversation here. Give me more information about what you mean by get noticed as a street photographer with a larger camera. Because I think that actually is information that's more usable for us and more usable for me to be able to help you. So I'm running out of time. I've only got about 5 minutes left, so try and get that in there, okay? So let's see here. Palash Nandi, another question. You want to be a pro professional. You clearly haven't heard me talk about the idea that professional photographers are the dumbest people in the world. They really are. Your question is, do you need to go to a photo college or online education websites like Creative Live, RegEdu, or my channel? Are they enough? You feel like kind of an imposter learning online. If you're an imposter, Palash, because you're learning online, I'm the world's biggest imposter. I've never taken a class in photography. I did not go to college for photography. I did not go to school for photography. My school, it was experience. It was life. I sought out mentors. I didn't take no for an answer. I shot and I shot and I shot. I got my first camera at age 11. At age 14, I had my first picture published in a newspaper. Right out of high school, I was hired as a chief photographer of a small town newspaper with 4 other photographers working underneath me. So I learned on the street. I learned by doing. I learned and I still learn. I am not done learning. Selfishly, the greatest thing about what I do today, while I get paid to teach, I'm getting paid to learn and relearn. And believe me, it gets me more excited about photography than I've ever been about photography. But, are those schools bad? No, not at all. They're great. Any learning, any education, any progression in terms of your knowledge base and your understanding is never a bad thing, ever. But is it a requirement and does it make you an imposter? No. Your clients don't care, did you go to school? Your clients care, how good are your pictures and what's it going to be like working with you? They don't teach you any of that in a school. They just don't, okay? So let's see, Darko, you and your friend go out, you're well known. Okay, so it's kind of a local thing. People, yeah, and you know what? If that's like your shtick, okay, then that's a cool thing. Like it's like a hook, and people get to know you. And I'm guessing, Darko, that based on what you're saying, since people know you and do the hey, I know you, it's also kind of a door opener, meaning it creates a situation where people are more likely to be saying like, hey, take my picture. Like, it'd be cool if you took my picture because like I know that's what you do. Believe me, if that's the case, then oh yeah, that's like a perfect scenario. So if the camera's working for you that way and it's kind of becoming your calling card, nothing wrong with that at all. Absolutely. It doesn't necessarily make it better, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about what you do from an image standpoint, right? But if it's working for you in terms of how people get to know you and it opens up doors and it gets people to want to post for you, then absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So let's see here. Where are we at? I saw 1 or 2 more. I want to try and get them. Let's see. Michael, I haven't seen this one, but I will look it up. A fashion photographer by the name of Benjamin Kinerick wrote an article called The Bane of Bokeh. It's very informative. Yeah. It is what it is, but I would say my hunch is he's probably not talking very highly of bokeh based on that title. Again, bokeh is great, but it's not, unfortunately, not the end all, right? Okay. So let's see here. Deborah, the person that did that class tried to get you to do a $10,000 class. Oh, Deborah, come on, seriously? Yeah, so Deborah, you and I, you need to make sure you set aside some time for us to chat while you are at Shutterfest on that Tuesday. Track me down. you don't want to be spending that kind of money, okay? And do me a favor, the next time that you decide you're going to spend that kind of money, call me first, because I could always find something to spend it on. I'll put something together for you for that price, okay? But yeah, definitely make sure you come to my talk. It's not your normal marketing talk, which if you know me, that shouldn't be a big surprise, right? So, all right, gang, where are we at here? Am I at the end? I am at the end. I think I got pretty much everybody here. And we're at 90 minutes. Whoo, look at that. I actually hit it on time tonight. So 90 minutes, that means 180 minutes with a camera in your hand before next week. I will be here next week. Like I said, I'm going to be at Shutterfest on Tuesday, but I fly home crazy early Wednesday morning. I have to get back early on Wednesday morning because my dog Buddy likes his morning walks, and I don't want him to be mad at me. So I'll be back, okay? But yeah, so we will have TogChat next week. I am actually between one of 2 different guests. I'm trying to get scheduling worked out. Palash, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. So, but we will have a guest next week. We're going to be doing an interview. But please make sure, go pick up that camera, shoot something, have some fun. And as always, gang, remember these words.
Thanks for watching another live episode of TogChat. Now, pick up that camera and shoot something, because your best shot is your next shot. So keep learning, keep thinking, and keep shooting. Adios.